Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. So it's almost that time again. It's time to really start having a discussion as to who should be leading the nation, who should be the leader of the free world. It's time to start comparing and contrasting. Pretty soon, it's going to be Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. It could be Ron DeSantis, but for the most part, I don't think that's going to happen. I think based on what we're seeing, at least based on the information that we have right now, it's going to be a 2020 matchup rematch. We now essentially have confirmation that despite the fact that most Democrats and most voters don't want to see Joe Biden run again, despite voter will, it seems as though Biden is gearing for another run.
Let me ask you the question everyone is asking. Are you running?
Well, apparently someone interviewed my wife today, I heard.
I heard that too, just before I came in.
And I got to call her and find out. No, all kidding aside. My intention hasn't been from the beginning to run. But there's too many other things I have to finish in the near term before I start a campaign.
He says he's not done. He's not finished what he started. And that's what's important. And I think, look at all that Joe has done, has accomplished. I mean, he brought us out of the chaos. And he did that. He was elected because people wanted steady leadership.
Joe Biden and Jill Biden essentially giving the strongest hints that we have seen so far that Joe is in fact running again. Because, you know, he's accomplished so much and still has so much more to do to cement his legacy. His legacy as the worst president in American history. He really wants to double up. But on a serious note, it's time to start really having a conversation. It's time to start putting ideas out there and trying to influence the public debate. Because simply, at least in my opinion, it's pretty much a no-brainer. Donald Trump has been more active lately as Trump 2024, his comeback campaign starts to kick into full gear, and he's now taking on the warmonger machine, the Pentagon machine, the military-industrial complex. And so let's add another reason to the list as to why Donald Trump is objectively just a better choice. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so the contrast could not be more clear. You know, Joe Biden is saying stuff like this, as we covered yesterday.
Freedom is priceless. It's worth fighting for as long as it takes. And that's how long we're going to be with you, Mr. President, for as long as it takes.
We'll do it.
Thank you.
As long as it takes. Lindsey Graham's talking about till the last person. They seem so hell-bent on continuing this conflict forever, indefinitely. You know, I've never even heard Joe Biden mention peace even once. Mention negotiations, treaties, diplomatic solutions, meeting in the middle. I've never heard him even mention the concept a single time. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is going viral with clips like this.
World War III has never been closer than it is right now. We need to clean house of all of the warmongers and America Last Globalists and the deep state, the Pentagon, the State Department, and the national security industrial complex. One of the reasons I was the only president in generations who didn't start a war is that I was the only president who rejected the catastrophic advice of many of Washington's generals, bureaucrats, and the so-called diplomats who only know how to get us into conflict, but they don't know how to get us out. These people have been seeking confrontation for a long time, much like the case in Iraq and other parts of the world, and now we're teetering on the brink of World War III. And a lot of people don't see it, but I see it, and I've been right about a lot of things. They all say Trump's been right about everything. None of this excuses in any way the outrageous and horrible invasion of Ukraine 1 year ago, which would have never happened if I was your president. Not even a little chance.
And so who is the guy that you want leading the nation? You know, they constantly told us for the 4 years that Donald Trump was in power that he was unstable, that he would lead the world to World War III, that he couldn't be trusted with the nuclear codes. But it seems as though Donald Trump is a whole lot more level-headed. It seems like he's a whole lot more intent on diplomatic solution and negotiations than Joe Biden. It seems like Joe Biden is the unhinged warmonger. Donald Trump is now launching his campaign targeting specifically the warmongers and globalists, and that is exactly what I personally want to hear. You know, Donald Trump saved the world before. He saved the world from the wrath of Hillary Clinton, and it seems as though he's fully intent on doing it again. And it's really just a continuation of his track record. Back during the Donald Trump presidency, he met with Volodymyr Zelensky at one point. He made him extremely uncomfortable, I might add. But take a look at what he had to say back then.
will the military aid continue? Can you assure that it will continue in the future?
Well, we're working with Ukraine, and we want other countries to work with Ukraine. When I say work, I'm referring to money. They should put up more money. We put up a lot of money. I gave you anti-tank busters that, frankly, President Obama was sending you pillows and sheets. And I gave you anti-tank busters, and a lot of people didn't want to do that, but I did it. And I really hope that Russia, because I really believe that President Putin would like to do something, I really hope that you and President Putin get together and can solve your problem. That would be a tremendous achievement. And I know you're trying to do that.
The simple fact is he's the right man for the job. He's been calling for diplomacy and coming together, creating global stability, which creates economic stability and a thriving and growing middle class across the world. Meanwhile, the rest of these globalist stooges seem hell-bent on, I think, what can only be described as nuclear Armageddon. Donald Trump and people who share my opinion want a diplomatic solution. Volodymyr Zelensky condemns that notion. Zelensky challenges American voters. If the US does not support Ukraine, it will lose leadership position in the world. When did this guy get elected as president of the world? Issuing statements like that. Last week, he literally said on the record that if China chooses to support Russia and sends them arms and munitions, then, quote, they would be starting World War III. There's also this moment from the Joe Rogan podcast with Dave Smith that continues to put this Volodymyr Zelensky dynamic into perspective.
And so now he's saying that if the territory of Russia is infringed on, he will use nuclear weapons. And he said straight up, this is not a bluff. I will use nukes. He's just said this the other day. And then Zelensky goes on and gives a speech. And Zelensky says that his standard is not just that Russia has to retreat and give back all the territory to Ukraine, but that Russia must be punished for the aggression into Ukraine. And then Zelensky says that if Russia even thinks about using nukes, that the other nuclear-armed countries should use their nukes against Russia. And you're just like, dude, what the f*** are we talking about here? And I'm sorry, no, we shouldn't. We shouldn't use nukes against Russia preemptively because this Zelensky guy wants us to.
The people that we have that run the country, there's not one thing that you point to and you go, well, they're awesome at that. Not one thing where you're like, I have full trust in them when it comes to that.
And so you're left with a choice. The Biden, Lindsey Graham, Zelensky option of best case scenario, threatening World War III and pitting global superpowers against each other. Worst case scenario, nuclear Armageddon. Or the Donald Trump route of dealing with our adversaries, getting to the boardroom, the roundtable, whatever you want to call it, discussions, negotiations from a diplomatic perspective. And to me, the answer seems absolutely clear. Donald Trump is 100% the better option, counter to the Democrat mainstream narrative. Donald Trump is the level-headed one. Joe Biden is the clear World War III threat. And it's funny how the same leftoids who were screeching and hollering back in 2016 and throughout Donald Trump's election, he's gonna start the next world war. He's poking the bear in North Korea. He's gonna start a war with China and Russia. All of a sudden, those same people are looking all giddy like a bunch of NPCs who programmed in the new talking point, which seems to be start World War III, Russia bad. You know, it's sober side-by-side analysis like this that really starts to allow you to put things into perspective. Outside of all of the media noise, the simple fact of the matter is that Donald Trump is just a better option. Everything was better under Donald Trump's watch. The world was more stable, America was more stable, the southern border was more stable, America was more secure, the world was more secure, and the economy was in much better shape. Instead, you have this freaking clown, as everything's going to hell in a handbasket, continues to say nonsense like this. Biden claims that families have a little bit more breathing room after another dismal inflation report. We've covered the data, we know the stats. American families are being squeezed like they haven't experienced in more than a decade. And Joe keeps touting his success. There's no success at all. And honestly, when it's all said and done, when you really analyze it, when you really look at the facts, even an expert historian agrees that Biden might actually be on pace to become the worst president in history. A presidential historian noted on President's Day, of all occasions, that Joe Biden is on track to become the worst leader in the country's history. New York Times bestselling author Craig Shirley told Just the News podcast on Monday I ranked him among our worst 5 presidents in American history. The ranking was initially based on an article authored by Shirley, which was written 1 year after Joe Biden took office as president. Shirley has now revealed that he plans to update the ranking 2 years after Biden was inaugurated. He's actually going to become the worst president in American history, Shirley told the program. You know, I keep talking about contrasting and comparing these two figures, but at the end of the day, there is no comparison. Joe Biden's a globalist, status quo, corrupt politician, bringing back all the problems, all the issues experienced under Obama, Bush, and other presidencies. And Donald Trump was the breath of fresh air. I don't know about you guys, but I could really use a breath of real fresh air after experiencing 2 years of toxic air quality, all starting since the moment Sleepy Joe was inaugurated. Joe Biden's talking about families having a little bit more breathing room. It's kind of hard to breathe under Sleepy Joe's non-existent leadership. That's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, friends, and I'll see you on the next one.